Welcome to The Connection with your host, Jay Morales. Part 3 with Craig Fouts, Vietnam veteran. In this final episode of a 3-part series, Craig shares the emotions of returning home. He shares a few more stories of his battle buddies and honors them as well. You can hear his patriotism and his humble demeanor. With over 925 combat hours and 37 air medals, Craig, like many others, answered the call to serve their country with zeal and bravery. Listen as Craig Fouts gives perspective about being changed.
I want to talk about, some of the hardest lessons that you took, perhaps that taught you good lessons on how to navigate through life. Is there any experiences that you went through that say, this prepared me for life during Vietnam? And how does it relate?
Well, I was kind of different when I came back from Vietnam. I had more of a temper, really, but I had a lot more confidence too. So I sort of grew up over there, and I guess that was a good thing, because I realized then that nothing else would ever compare to that 1 year. Nothing would compare to it. So when I got out, I was sworn in as an LA County deputy sheriff, and come to find out, they looked at my background, said, well, you can't be one right now. I mean, not for another 7 years after your driving record clears up, because I had a drag race where I crashed into a parked car. So I couldn't be a cop.
But you can crew chief a helicopter, you can be overseas, you could risk your life, you could almost die in an attack, survive an ammo dump exploding on itself, grazing death, but you couldn't serve as a police officer because of one drag race.
Right.
Isn't that ironic?
I could reapply. I think it was 3 to 5 years I could reapply. But yeah, but there was other things that made it impossible to get on there too.
Oh, okay.
There was affirmative action didn't help either,
Yeah, understood. And I mean, God told you probably at that time, hey, it's not for you. This is not for you. So,
hey,
Craig,
I wasn't big enough. I wasn't big enough to be a cop. There's no telling what could have happened doing that. So,
life would have been different for sure. We talked before about fear, and I want to go back to the year, right? Anywhere in the year that you were there. And I talk about fear, and I talk to people about fear, being scared, being brave, heroic, cowardly, the whole spectrum, right, of how you face difficult things. Some people run away and some people run right into it, right? And, Craig, for you, there was no choice on the danger. I mean, you weren't exactly piloting the helicopter, right?
right.
You were along for the ride. So tell me, Craig, when my wife drives, I'm not telling you I fear for my life, but I'm telling you, like, I feel like I lose control, okay? I have a problem there. And I'm not trying to compare. But Craig, let's talk about your life in the hands of a helicopter pilot. Tell me about that.
I just had total confidence in them. I mean, you asked me in the interview at the memorial what it felt like to have the responsibility of keeping the crew safe. The aircraft commander decides whether or not you should go down into a hot LZ or not. if the helicopter's having trouble, like we did one time where all the gauges went off, the warning lights, the buzzers, and the ship started to vibrate pretty bad
Oh,
because we overtorqued the engine. It's the pilot's decision to decide whether he wants to set it down in the field, whether it might be an enemy position, or to make it to an LZ. So he's pretty we're all pretty responsible for the safety of the others.
yes.
So yeah,
I mean, I get it, right? But here you are, while one person is doing their job and you're doing yours.
right.
As a crew chief, I mean, was your position to be on gunner, the whole time, or at least to stand watch while you were flying
No,
your
we were a
mission?
gunner also the whole time.
Wow.
The crew chief was required to go up with the ship. That way, they're kind of sure that he's not gonna slack off on his job.
Right. Because
So
if he doesn't get on, then
yeah,
there's something.
right.
I get it. That's
So we were responsible for making sure the helicopter was ready to fly the next morning, and the aircraft commander, he was pretty much in charge of most of the other decisions for taking care of us.
what was the value of those helicopters in dollars back then? Do you
I
know?
don't, I don't know.
You didn't even think about that, did you? I mean, it's
No.
it's easily it's easily in the millions, right? I mean, really, let's think about that for a second, because you can't buy any of these helicopters for, darn near 400, 500,000, equipped for the military now. But they entrusted you with so much responsibility, Craig. You, the whole crew, the pilot. Um, there's no question in my mind why you say that you grew up in a year. I mean, you experienced everything in life. And like you said, nothing compares to the 1 year, not the responsibility, not the danger. I'm sure there have been trying times in life. I'm sure there have been hard things in life, but you say nothing compares to that. I mean, to that hard time, Craig. So
Yeah.
when people tell you, I got to work a double shift today,
Yeah. Oh, too bad. Okay, that how many people go to sleep in the mud? That's what happened one day. We were out on guard duty on the perimeter, and we were in 2 hour shifts. You could sleep every 2 hours with three guys. It was two, 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 and it was raining, and I laid my shelter half out on the mud, and then I laid another shelter half over me. Went to sleep. Something wiggled up by my side, and I didn't know what to do. I thought it was a tiger snake. I thought, oh, he'll bite me if I move. I didn't move for quite a long time, and he kept moving up towards my side and snuggled against my side. So I said, okay, well, on the count of three, I'm going to grab my shelter, corner of it, and then you flip it open and jump out. Turns out, I flipped it open, a big old rat jumps out about half the size of a cat and takes off
what?
running. How many people could have that happen?
No,
Excuse me.
go ahead, take some water, Craig. Go ahead and take
Mm-hmm.
some water. I'll give you a break. Yeah, take some water.
But
I'll edit
there's
that
so
part out.
many people that spend so much time in the military going to all these different war zones that I feel like, oh, what the heck, what all they went through. Some of them really went through whole lot more than I did.
I mean, Craig, I can go to a dark alley right now and try to recreate that exact moment and find a rat half the size of a cat, but that,
Yeah,
like you said, that's not gonna happen.
yeah,
I mean, red dirt, humid.
yeah.
Heck, you probably never had a set of clean clothes except for a few minutes, right? I mean, whenever they laundered it, right? I mean, were there days that you didn't shower, days that you didn't?
Oh yeah, there were some days because some days we'd be flying 10 hours in a row, and then the next day 12 hours, and then sometimes you'd be busy all day. You couldn't take a shower, and
Yeah,
when you did, it was freezing cold, but it was still good. You could still get. You just get under it and get out. You know what I call it. But it was
that's
in a dumpster container, uh, a 50-gallon drum cut in half, and then the water would be poured above your head, and you'd have a little spigot that you turn, and it would just one string come out and be ice cold.
golly.
But
Yeah. So
it
when the
was,
when the water heater goes out in people's houses, you don't feel bad, I'm saying.
no. But I did say when I get home, I'll never take another cold shower as long as I live.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. But Craig, are there any stories that you want to share that, you want to share maybe that might talk about your fellow comrades? Anything that because they'll be listening to this too, and we have a little more time now because we're not sitting under the hot sun
Yeah.
for
No, I
just
just
an
have
hour.
a lot of respect for each one of them and for what they went through. So there is a few particular things that I really gained a lot of respect for some of them.
Yeah. And I know that you probably have a story for all of them, but is there anyone that you want to share? Is there anything
There
that
is, but I don't know if he would want me to share it.
Oh, that's fair. You know what? That
So
that that is fair.
yeah, it was very heroic, and he knows who he is. I think we all know who he is. But
Well, how about this? Let's not say his name, and why don't you explain to me, if you can, why you think this individual's heroic?
well, I witnessed it, so I don't think he would mind because it was in his speech that I gave at the reunion.
Oh, okay, then yeah, then the world knows. The world knows.
It was
Let's.
it was well, I could it was Byron Bodie, but there was another incident with Tom Reinhardt too.
Sure.
So so they were both heroic. I mean, so was so was Ruben and Sam. Um, on May 7th, 2 days before, excuse me, May 5th, it was May 5th, 2 days before May 7th when the hooch went down. We had a scramble mission where a good friend of mine, John Mataraki, was the observer on a scout ship, and Mr. Kerr was the pilot. We got word they got shot down. So everybody's scrambling to the helicopter to go out to see if we can help. And we're racing down the runway, and it wasn't far off from Quanloy where this took place. But what I first remember seeing is the smoke coming up from the jungle. It was a gray smoke. And we circled to see if we could help because that was the burning ship that got shot down. And we circled it. And every time a Huey would get close, they would take fire. And the area that they crashed in was too small for any Huey to land to help anyway. We circled and we saw there was nothing that we could do, so we gained gained some altitude and got out of the way of everybody else. Then this little Snoopy scout ship where Gregory Ash was the pilot and Byron Bodie flew as an observer that day. Well, he just jumped in because it was a scramble mission. And I saw our helicopter that was burning. And then I saw this helicopter that Mr. Bodie was in go down and just sit there. And he was taking fire. I could see the tracer rounds being attracted to his ship from both sides. And I knew he was taking some hits. I didn't know how many. But I couldn't see what was happening below except I see the helicopter just sitting there for what seemed like forever. And we just prayed, hey, get out of there, get out of there. Well, Mr. Bodie had jumped out and carried Mr. Kerr. Mr. Kerr was hit with a .50 caliber in the leg. And he put him into the little helicopter. And they got out, he couldn't find Mataraki. And as they were leaving, they saw Mataraki standing and waving. And they went back and they put Mataraki in the helicopter. Mataraki was fatally burned. I mean, he passed away within a day or two after that. But Gregory and Byron got those two guys back to the medevac pad. And we went in there. We followed them back in. But what he did, I just can't even believe how he got out of there. They took a couple of hits or three, I don't know, but it was just a miracle they got out. And another time, Tom Reinhardt was on a mission, and we had flown 10 hours that day, and a scout ship again was shot down. He took a round and was in real trouble. And Tom told him to set it down and would pick him up, but he didn't want to land where the enemy was. He wanted to try to make it back to LZ Button. So we followed him, and Tom told him it's pop a colored smoke if you go down. So they said, oh, I got a vibration. Oil pressure's going down. I'm going down. So they crashed in front of us, and there wasn't a real good place to land. And Tom found a small area that was nearby. We hovered over it a while, and they asked if I could see any survivors. I said, I see one. I see the pilot. He's still in the cockpit, and I don't see the other guys. So we landed, and we were covered with suppressive fire from other scout ships. And we had the major or lieutenant colonel, I can't remember what it was right now without reading the diary, and a sergeant jump out to find the survivors. And they found them. None of them survived, and we got out of there. But Tom Reinhardt's job of flying that ship into that little tight area and hovering there for as long as we did, that was something to see too. So, but I mean, Ruben Alejandro, for instance, went in. He went into an LZ after a hot LZ quieted down, and he landed there for the colonel to talk to the commander in the LZ. And the ground attack started while they were down there, so they had to get out as soon as they could. So As soon as they lifted up in the helicopter, a rocket hit down below them with either a mortar or a rocket, but the observer disappeared when it hit below him. It threw shrapnel up through the bottom of the ship. And Lozano was a door gunner. And a AK-47 round went up his pant leg, out the knee of his pants, hit the belt buckle and bent it upwards, and ricocheted into his chest protector, knocking him up against the wall and shattering his chest protector. He couldn't breathe because the wind was knocked out of him, and he thought he was hit. And they tried to tell him to get to firing, but he couldn't do it. So I get the word back on base that because Lozano took my place that day, I had guard duty, so he took my place as the door gunner that day.
Yeah.
And I met him at the ship when he came in. He landed. He didn't land in a revetment. He landed in the middle of the runway. I saw Lozano get out of the helicopter and threw his helmet down into the runway, and then threw his chest protector as hard as he could back into the helicopter. And came over to me and said, "You can have all the flying you want. I'm not going to fly again, ever, period." And, okay, I understand it. I get it, but he's going to have to pull these lousy details all the rest of the time while he's over here. I said, hey, but he would never go back to flying. I didn't blame him a bit.
And that's a lift
really
to tell.
Out. It came about that far from the bottom of his chest protector. An inch lower, he'd be gone.
Yeah. I mean, to be knocked the wind out of you and in the back of a helicopter with a steel pot on your head, to be blown away and then not to be able to function after, then land on the ground and let alone yell at Craig, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think of just that sequence of events. That's not normal. So I want to move forward with the story, and talk about the mental health. So, I want to talk about addressing the today. Craig, when you got out, you said, fortunately for yourself, there was a path to at least, join your father's business at one time, and then you worked for
Industrial
calling out about them, but who is it again?
Well, I was very fortunate
Yes.
to be able to have something to come back to. So many people couldn't find a job when they got back. They wouldn't hire people that were from over there. And I don't know what I'd have done if my dad didn't have the business he did. So that's why I tried to be, I joined the police, the LA County Police Department, and then I joined the fire department. But also the fire department, I passed all my tests. I passed physical agility, passed the oral exam, passed the written exam. All I had to do was see a battalion chief. All of a sudden, I was in the top 30 for the LA County Fire Department. All of a sudden, I dropped to 300 because of affirmative action.
At the time. Yeah.
So, there's nothing I could have found. So I went to work for Earl's.
Yeah, that's right. And we talked about Earl's a bit. And now, Craig, in the middle of, not middle, but from age 30-ish to, let's call it late 50s, let's go 30 to 60. Were there times where you really needed someone to talk to? And did you talk to someone? Did you get help? Did you need to talk to someone? Were there times you needed to just vent?
Yeah, I would talk to my brothers, and I'd talk to my dad and my brother. They knew. My dad especially knew I had to talk it out, and he advised the brothers to talk to me too. So
Was it hard for you to ask for help at first? Were you holding it in for a while? Because the reason I'm asking this is, again, I advocate for mental health, and our veterans right now need mental health assistance or guidance more than ever. If someone like me or one of my brothers or sisters is hurting Craig and they're listening right now, what do you want to tell them?
oh, I wouldn't know. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't
we,
know about because you asked me too about advice to
or
a
what would you
student.
tell them to do for someone says, hey, I'm fine. I don't need to talk to anybody. Like, if someone told you like they were stressed out, they had PTSD, like what would you tell them to do, or would you tell them to go to the VA? I guess what I'm asking, Craig, is too many times people say, "I'm fine. I'm just going to hold it in."
No, that's not good. No, I would ask them to talk about it because it does it gives you release. I mean,
To
my dad my dad was in World War II and he fought in Okinawa and in the Philippines and he fought Kakadu Ridge and Hacksaw Ridge, which was really at the time called Sawtooth Ridge.
Yep, Sawtooth Ridge, right? You told me that.
And he was there. He was he was with the 96th Infantry Division. He was replaced with that Doss,
Dawson,
who was
Doss,
in the
right? Doss.
movie.
Yes, yes.
His unit replaced my dad's unit, so he had a lot of stories to tell. And when he would talk to me about it, he kind of held back on what he wanted to say, but I keep pressing and pressing and pressing, and he finally talked to me. And that I was just in complete awe with what he had to say. And I kind of always said, gee, I would have liked to have seen what he went through. I'd like to have experienced what he went through if I knew I wasn't going to get hurt.
Right, right.
But I wouldn't want to go through there if I didn't know it. So
I mean,
so no,
Craig,
I think it helps to talk, and that's what my dad realized also.
I think that's important, and I appreciate you articulating it like that because too often you're not supposed to say anything. Too often, oh, don't offend them, don't reach out to them. Oh, don't talk about that stuff, right? That happens too often in our society now, where they really should seek help. There are organizations out there that are ready to help, and I want people to know that people like yourself who've been through a lot can really still achieve in life. You're a shining example, Craig, of what it is to create a good life for yourself after all that you've been through. Am I
Well, I was
right?
fortunate. I was fortunate.
Yes. Yes.
So
And I mean, there's a there's a there's a trying time in everyone's life, and most people try to get through it. Some get through it and some just give up, and but there's so many symbols and there's so many things. Back to the symbols now. I want to go back to the day that you visited the Nebraska Vietnam Veterans Memorial. So here we are. We're going to fast forward. We're going to leave all that other stuff behind. Here we go. Craig's getting ready. Susan's flying in, right? We're flying in. I know you had dinner the night before at DJ's Dugout, but you had a pre-ceremony the day before the grand opening, correct? Is that correct, Craig? It was like the day
it was
before.
well, we just
Private.
met there. Let's see, what did we do? Well, we just was there to see it before the opening ceremony. So the
Yeah,
first thing
yeah.
we did was gather up everybody all in one spot and waited for everybody to get together. We walked up the steps.
Yes.
And we walked and we saw the first wall that had the great photographs in it and the names and all this. And we just walked over to the helicopter, and we're in awe with the memorial. You know, all of us were pretty much in awe. But when I got to that first pedestal with the button on it for the push the button and the helicopter sound goes off in the front of the helicopter, I just went, oh wow, that is amazing. That sounded so good.
Yes.
Because that was the Huey helicopter had a glorious sound to it. I mean, so many of those infantry guys down there meant a lot for them to hear that.
Oh yes.
And that's another thing. Those guys that saw so much action, so close up, so intense. I never witnessed that, so I wouldn't know about how they would feel about releasing what's inside them.
Yeah, that's
because
fair.
Some of them saw so much that they may not want to talk about it. They want to forget it and just go to something else.
Yeah.
I didn't see that kind of action, so it didn't get to me that bad.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that.
Push the button, the sound of the Huey, and then I see the picture of the helicopter sitting in there, and I said, "That's me behind the gun. That's Captain Colonel Martin in front of me, and Tom Reinhardt flying it. And the picture above it was it's on the pedestal.
Yes.
Perfect. I just telling everybody that.
Yeah.
And then we walked over to see each individual pedestal with all of our tiles and our photographs on the tiles. I was just going, this is just too hard for me to believe that this is even happening. I mean, it was such an honor to be a part of this. It was just meant to be. It could have been any helicopter. It just so happened to be the one I crewed. And I'm just overwhelmed with the whole thing.
I mean, Craig, you know, like you said, everything, you know, the reunion of people, the not seeing people forever, having this Huey set up in the air as a centerpiece, you know, tail number 532, and all these emotions and things of that nature coming back together again, you know, and Mayor Black being there, right, recepting you guys. I mean, tell me about some of your interactions there with Mayor Black.
Oh, well, he got us a tour of the American Speed Museum there in Lincoln.
Yes.
And that was pretty neat too. And I sent him an Earl's hat.
Oh, you did?
And he sent me a great photograph back with the Earl's hat sitting in the front of his mayor's office with the background of the mayor's. And that was pretty neat. But he's just been a super nice guy to talk to.
He's an advocate. I can tell you personally from my experience and as a normal citizen who sees on the outside, right? He's done so much for veterans. He's done so much for Papillion. And it's that he's been a mayor for a long time, but, you know, he's really, really involved and very supportive of all the veteran community, the military community. So those are one of our key people. So Ron Elwell, you know, as many people are working on this, you know, the construction crews and volunteers and the executive director, Ron Elwell, What do you want to share with them? What sentiment do you want to share with those folks?
Well, the city of Papillion also donated 2.5 acres for that monument.
Yeah.
So that was pretty neat of the city. And David Black
Yes.
and, well, who else you?
Oh, the hundreds of hands maybe who worked on it, and Ron Elwell,
Oh,
all these
yeah,
people, the restoration crew, Iowa Western, like hundreds of hands made this happen.
I know it. And they did such an outstanding job of it. And then
No.
that was the Hawkins Construction Company. They did an outstanding job. And then Troy Muller, the sculptures that Troy Muller sculpted.
The laser, they laser guided the eyes so that it would actually be accurate in looking up to the helicopter. Is that correct?
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. So the placement of the head was lined up with a laser accuracy to make sure that it was all, like it was accurate. Like they just didn't plop a statue there. They lined it up.
Wow, that is amazing.
It is. And I want you to tell me the significance of the ammo can.
That's where you put the bullets. And there's a door gunner that is part of that. There's John Malsby ashes are inside there. I think the word has been out, and I think
Yes, it has
everybody
been.
knows it. So
Yes, it has been.
I can say it now.
Yes,
But
yeah,
that's quite an
you're
honor for his family, and
yeah,
that's an honor for me too.
yeah,
And in my
yeah,
speech, I said I feel like he's still here.
yeah.
So
Because he had just passed a few months before
about a
the
year,
about a year.
a
Okay,
little over a
okay,
year
okay,
before.
yeah,
We wanted to see him at the reunion uh, while they were refurbishing the helicopter there. After they did that, but his grandson was graduating from the Air Force Academy, and he was attending that.
yeah. No, we've captured so much in between this interview and the other interview. And I'll edit this out, but it's a multi-part interview. Here's the last part I want to get to is when you see your brothers and sisters out, whether they're veterans or Vietnam veterans, I mean, and people say, to you now, thank you for your service. Somebody just answered me the other day. I thanked them for their service, and they said something that really stuck with me. They said, "I'm honored to have served, but I wish I could have done more." You know what I mean? Or still wish I can do more. He was probably 80 years old, 70 years old, right?
Yeah,
And it hit me so hard that serving, that's our purpose, Craig. That is your purpose. It's my purpose. So when people see you now, and because times are different, it was civil unrest back in the 70s and 80s or 70s, and cultural revolution, and all the hippies and rock music and all that stuff, and drugs, rock and roll, right? Now you see people, and times have changed. In your eyes, when people see veterans, here's the question: what do you want them to think, or what do you want them to feel, or what do you want them to know when it comes to, hey, that person's a veteran? Not that you want them to be thanked, but what is it that you want them to know about veterans?
ooh, that's that's a tough one.
It's so broad, right? It's so broad, Craig. I know.
Yeah, but the
These are
answer that
hard
that fella
questions.
gave was perfect, and I just, I just, if I see somebody wearing a vet's hat or know that he's a veteran, there's a lot of respect for him, and we talk about what he did, and we share it together, and we have a good time sharing it together. I if somebody comes up to me and says thanks for your service, I say thank you, but I'll wear my Vietnam veterans hat to maybe on Veterans Day to a casino or something, because that's where everybody else is wearing theirs.
Yes.
But that's the only time I wear it, because when somebody says thanks for your service, I thank them, and I am thankful they say that. But I don't wear the hat because I don't want I don't want them to think that I'm asking for them to say that, if you know what I mean.
Yes, correct. And Craig, we talked about this. I've really learned this about you. You're very humble. You know, even in our talks behind the scenes, you always want to say, "Hey, it's not about me. It's about them." Hey, I don't want to be labeled as a hero. I mean, I hear you, Craig, and I know that I know everyone thinks of you as the same. I don't look at you that way either, Craig. I look at you as a human being. I look at you as a great, an awesome grandfather, right, to his family and,
Yeah,
your grandkids. And, I mean, you have a beautiful family, Craig. And that's where my whole podcast here is heading to is Craig is a human being, a great human being, held reverence for his parents, his father, learned at a young age what hard work was like, did his duty, left the service, got rejected a couple places, police and fire department, right, because of crazy things. Then went, back to, oh my gosh, it was not, what is the name of the business again? My God.
you mean Earl's
Earl's.
Performance,
You went back
or
to Earl's. Yeah, so you went back to Earl's. Sorry, I can edit that. You went to Earl's. You met your wife Susan when you were in Alabama station at Fort Rucker. Your time, you built this beautiful life together, and here we are, Craig. I mean, finding out the Huey, okay, reunion, Huey, Nebraska Vietnam Veterans Memorial, but it's so much more than that. It's a connection of people. It's reuniting. It's living this again. It's honoring your time in the service with your brothers and sisters' time. But this is the final question, really, Craig, because what what do you want people to know of you? I know, like I've tried to set this up, Craig, to say, I know Craig is humble. He doesn't want to be a hero. When they see Craig Fouts, because I've heard of Craig Fouts from 5 to 7 different people before I met you. I see now Craig Fouts, all the reverence whenever I post something about you online. What do you want people to know, Craig, about Craig?
wow, that I'm very appreciative of everything that's happening right now. Um, I tried to be as honest I can. Um, that's a good question too. Um, I don't. Uh, I'm not a hero, but I did see a lot of heroes at work, and I just feel gracious that this honor of being part of this. I mean, it's a big deal, big part of my life. But it's so important that this became that helicopter became a centerpiece of a memorial that's going to be there for a long time, representing all these people that was in Vietnam. So I feel, I feel like that's a grand finale, really.
I mean, Craig, if you think about it, right, if when you listen to this interview later, and I want to make sure that I've done it justice, if you could sit in my seat, Craig, yes, hero is not the word I would use for you. Honorable, servant leadership,
Yeah, thank you.
passionate. Yeah,
I
passionate, Craig.
appreciate this
Faith.
interview too.
Oh, you have no idea, Craig. I mean, like I said, it's done more for me than it's done for you. And heck, every time I talk to you, I want to turn it into an interview because here's why. You are humble. I talk to a lot of people, Craig, and I hear the stories from other people, and it's okay. Everyone shares their story in a different way, but you have a humility about you that makes me just want to learn more. I want to learn more beyond the Vietnam veteran. I want to learn more beyond the guy that worked at Earl's or became a great grandpa, a great husband, and father to your children. And I want your family to know, man. You've created an incredible life in spite of, in challenge of the things that were put in front of you. And again, I don't want to over glorify, but Craig, you say I never saw front lines. I don't know what front lines mean. For some people, the front line is getting out of bed to go to work, right? For some people,
Yeah.
it's to reunite with an old brother they never. But Craig, you were brave in the times that you were afraid. If that makes sense. You were brave in the
Oh,
times that
thank
you were
you.
afraid. And yes, the word miracle does strike very true in your story multiple times. But with that being said, my brother, I mean, this is just the beginning of a good friendship for you and I
Great. And
I mean it.
you're a great interviewer.
Thanks for tuning in to The Connection. It's been a fantastic journey exploring stories, insights, and inspirations that bridge our lives. Remember, every connection has the power to transform. Please subscribe, rate, and review. Your feedback keeps us going. In this connected world, let's make meaningful connections that enrich lives. Now, signing off until next time. The Connection. Keep connecting and let's go.